partial local interests. Our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves will become a reproach and a byword to a future age. And what is worse, mankind may hereafter from this unfortunate instance despair of establishing governments by human wisdom and leave it to chance, war, or conquest. I therefore beg that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessing be upon our deliberations and be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business. It's one of our founding fathers. And he says, guys, the reason we don't understand government, the reason we can't get along, the reason we're so divided is because we haven't asked God to guide us yet. Back in the day when we were fighting for our lives, we begged God's guidance every single day. But now we think that we can handle it on our own. And we're going to fail. We need God. Jacob got to a place where he figured out, my life is on the line. And nothing that I'm doing is working. I have to have God. And so he prayed. Prayer should not be and it cannot be our last resort. It must be our guiding priority. His prayer is found in verse 9. Then Jacob said, God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, the Lord who said to me, go back to your land and to your family, and I will cause you to prosper. I am unworthy of all of the kindness and faithfulness that you have shown your servant. Indeed, I crossed over the Jordan with my staff, and now I have become two camps. Please rescue me from my brother Esau, for I am afraid of him. Otherwise he may come and attack me, the mothers and their children. You have said, I will cause you to prosper, and I will make your offspring like the sand of the sea, too numerous to be counted. It's a short, simple, but powerful prayer, and it teaches us much about prayer. If you don't mind, I'd like to just enumerate a few of the things. Number one, prayer acknowledges who God is. Here he says, God, you are the God of my father and the God of my father Abraham and the God of my father Isaac, and you have said these things. God, I'm talking to you. Prayer acknowledges who we are. Jacob admits this is the first time for him to say, I'm a grateful product of grace. I am unworthy of the kindness and faithfulness that you've shown me. Prayer acknowledges what God has done. God, you're the one who've prospered me. When I started going the other direction, I had just a staff with me. I was on the run, but now I come back, I've got 2 family camps and much of possessions. Prayer acknowledges reality. But God, even though you've blessed me, I'm in serious trouble and I am fearing imminent attack. Prayer also acknowledges God as my only hope. God, I need you to rescue me. Prayer embraces confidence in God's promises. God, I need you to rescue me not because I deserve it, but because you have said that Abraham to Isaac through me, that your people would outnumber the sand of the seashore. God, I'm putting my hope in your promises. You said I'd be prosperous, and I am trusting that. This is a unique moment for Jacob. It's the first time that he did not bargain with others or try to bargain with God. Even before this, he said to God, if you get me away from Laban and I get back to my home country, then I'll build an altar to you and then I'll call you my God. But here he is being gut level honest. And in that honesty, we arrive at the big scene that we tackle very quickly this morning. It's the WWE match of the ages. This is not Memphis Saturday morning wrestling. This is the big stuff on TBS. Jacob separated from his camp and then he retreats alone. but he was not alone. He tried to sleep, could not sleep. He would not sleep because he would wrestle through the night. So let's get ready to rumble. Verse 24. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not defeat him, he struck Jacob's hip socket as they wrestled and dislocated his hip. Then he said to Jacob, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." "What is your name?" the man asked. "Jacob," he replied. "Your name will no longer be Jacob. It will be Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But then he answered, "Why do you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. Jacob then named the place Peniel, "For I have seen God face to face," he said, "and yet my life has been spared." The sun shone on him as he passed by Peniel, limping because of his hip. That is why still today the Israelites do not eat the thigh muscle that is at the hip socket, because he struck Jacob's hip socket at the thigh muscle. It's an incredible scene to see Jacob wrestling through the night with a quote-unquote man. Well, he encounters this stranger and they begin to fight. We're going to answer who the nighttime wrestler is a little bit later on. For right now, we just need to see this is a huge event in Jacob's life. Everything from this point forward changes. His name changes, his character changes, his future changes, all because he encountered this strange wrestler by the Jabbok River. What do you do when your past catches up with you? How do you experience real life transformation when everything has been brought to bear? How does a person become new? Well, Jacob's wrestling match answers those questions. When life catches up to you, the first and the best move is to get alone with God. Jacob may have thought as he prayed that the thing that he needed to change was his circumstances. Oh God, if you would remove Esau from the land, or else maybe make Esau happy again. Dull his sword, steal his camels, do something to get Esau out of here, or I'm going to die. No, what Jacob didn't realize, what we seldom realize, the change we need is never so much in our circumstances or in other people as much as it is within us. Should I repeat that? The change we need so often is never so much in our circumstances or in others as much as it is within us. When's the last time that you separated yourself from all the noise and the drama and wrestled with God about your life, your burdens, your troubles, your concerns, your past, your inadequacies, your sin? When's the last time that you wrestled with God about needed changes in your life? You see, sometimes we never get to the point of life transformation because we do not give God the dedicated space to work on us in quiet. Get alone with God. The next move we need to make is to get desperate with God. This strange wrestler says, "All right, that's enough. We're done here." Jacob says, "Oh no, we're not. I am not letting you go until you bless me." By this time, Jacob had realized that he was fighting with someone who had the authority and ability to present spiritual blessing. Jacob had figured out this wrestler was otherworldly. Who is this wrestler? Well, and Jacob later names the place Peniel, "For I have seen God face to face." Well, we know from the Bible that God the Father is spirit. So who is this deity that he speaks of? Some theologians call this a theophany. That's the pre-incarnate Christ. And this pre-incarnate Christ wants to get hold of Jacob's life. The point is, Jacob needed and desired God's intervention so desperately that he said, I don't want to move on from this moment until I have your blessing on my life. I don't want to leave here today until my life has been changed. Now, you won't get desperate with God until you get honest with God, and that's the third move that we need to make. For this man from heaven says, oh, you want my blessing? Who exactly am I talking to? And this is where it gets real. What is your name? Tell me. I want you to say it out loud. My name is Jacob. It was the name given to him at birth when he exited the womb. And as he did, he was holding to his brother's foot who had gone before. The Hebrew name simply means heel grabber or supplanter. But over time, because of Jacob's character, it had been used to describe someone who connivingly steals or deceives to get his way. So Jacob had to admit, my entire life I have not trusted God. My entire life I am Jacob. I have lied. I have deceived. I have supplanted. I have grabbed at other people's weak spots to get what I want. This is important because real change cannot happen in your life or in my life until we admit to God who we really are. You cannot be saved until you admit that you are lost. You cannot gain victory until you confess that you are enslaved. Your marriage will not change until you admit that you're part of the problem. Jesus told the Samaritan woman at the well to go get her husband. Oops. Jesus wasn't sticking his foot in his mouth. He knew exactly what he was telling her to do. And it called her on the carpet, and right there, right then, she had to admit she was living with a man who was not her husband, and she had had multiplied husbands before. And she had to admit right then and there, honesty before God, I am a sinner, undone, unclean, and I need you to change me. Get honest with God. Get desperate for God. And guess what? You'll get changed by God. In this encounter, we hear that God changes Jacob's name. He goes from someone who grabs the heel or the reputation, someone who deceives, to now be called Israel. That's the name that God is going to choose to use for His people. And this name means the one who strives with God and man and prevails. The name is also used in Hebrew to represent God rules or God reigns. That's his name. Now, inquiring minds want to know, did Jacob win the wrestling match? That's a funny thought if you think about it. God never loses. He always rules and reigns. God did not lose the wrestling match. Jacob did not win the wrestling match. What took place here is God brought Jacob to a place of spiritual surrender. Of course, fighting with God had a price. And Jacob limped for the rest of his life. I'm trying to write a book, and it's not going well. I've got 125 pages that I've written, and I've had 125 pages for at least 6 months. I don't think I've typed a word in 6 months. The title of the book was supposed to be Walking with a Limp. But then I discovered somebody already has a title like that, and that's not cool. So we're changing things. Walking with a limp means that Jacob was weakened so that he could give testimony to the one who is strong. Jacob walked with a limp so that his very life would be a testimony of how the touch of God can change everything about who you are and where you're headed. Jacob walked with a limp so that people could recognize that your past can be altered into a different future. Let me ask you this. Do you have a testimony that says, I have met with God face to face, and I have surrendered my self-will, and He spared my life, and He gave me a new name and a new nature? That's what this is all about. Encountering God so that God gets a hold of you. Oh, by the way, this is a side note. Esau, we read a little bit further, was not gearing up to kill Jacob at all. He was simply coming to see his long-lost brother and family. So if you are prone to worry, keep this in mind. Most of what we worry about and stress over is not what we think it's going to be. God was at work in Jacob's life, and He brought him home to bring him to a place of surrender and change. It's very possible that God, in His sovereign order of your life, brought you home today for His intervention in your life, because He wants to change you and make your future bright for His glory. Yeah, you might walk with a limp, but you'll also walk with a testimony, God's testimony. Would you stand with me? I want us to pray for just a moment. Have you ever gotten alone and gotten honest and gotten real with God? Are you able to say, God, I do what I do because I want to do it? My heart is deceitfully wicked above all else, and even I don't understand its depths. Have you ever said to God, I have been scheming to get what I want. I do not consult you. I do not follow you. I do not know you. But God, I want to. I want for you to change my name, change my future, allow my past to be under the blood of your forgiveness. Have you ever just gotten real with God and said, I need to change? I did. It was a July night in 1987. And I said, Lord, I can keep on living the way I'm living and fool everyone, or I can give my heart completely to you. Have you ever come to a watershed moment in your life where you realize it's either with God or without God? He wants it to be with Him. Would you come to Jesus today? Would you say to Him, Lord, you're wrestling with my heart. You want full control. It's hard for me to give it up. But here I am saying, Lord, bless me. I need to be saved. Would you be saved this morning? Step out from where you are, make your way to the front. We'll sit down with you. We'll talk with you about faith and matters of life and what it means to follow Jesus as a genuine disciple. We want you to know Him and to make Him known. Maybe God's dealing with some sin in your life and you just need to sit right where you are and confess some of that before Him and say, Lord, I have taken back the reins of my life. My past has caught up with me, and I've been the one who's perpetrated hurt on others. I'm sorry. Maybe you just need to be like Jacob and for the first time say, Lord, I'm going to quit trying to figure this out and I'm going to pray. You've blessed me. You've poured out unmeasured grace on me, and I've just kept on going. I don't deserve your kindness. But God, here I am. I'm wanting to acknowledge that I need you in order to go forward. Please get me back to where you're first place in my life. We're going to be baptizing in a couple of weeks. Maybe you need to be part of that. God's been dealing with you, and you've been wrestling with what it means to stand up in front of people, and today you're ready to give in and say, Lord, I call it calf rope. I'm done. I will do what you say. Does anyone need to come this morning? Would you like for somebody to pray with you or pray for you? Father, it's our joy to be in your house today. In this sense, you in our midst. You have spoken. We respond in obedience. God, I don't want to go forward from this place without your blessing. I don't want to walk away from this unchanged. I want your testimony to be the visible evidence that people see in my life. That you've touched me and you've changed me, and I walk differently now. May that be the truth for all of us. We pray this for your honor and glory. Amen. Well, you are going to be blessed. It seems that I have misplaced my bulletin. So I'm going to trust that you either can read or can get to somebody who can. And that will keep you updated for all of the announcements, the ministry issues, and the meetings that are taking place within our fellowship life. You can also check the church app where you can be abreast of all of those things as well. Thank you for being here. May God bless you, my beloved. Have a great week in Christ Jesus. We will see you Wednesday night.